Alright, hey guys. So this video is going to be for people in the MicroMasters who are not students, but for TAs or GSRs or professors who are trying to upload a homework assignment using Vocarium onto the edX interface for students to solve. So there will be a few things going on here. We're going to have to first download the homework off of something like GitHub, in our case, and then we're going to put the homework onto the Vocarium website. Then we have to link the Vocarium website to the edX website for the student to be able to do the homework. So let's just get right into it. Let's first look at the homework, in our case, on GitHub. So in this tab right here, you can see this is the homework that we're going to be having the students do for this week. This was something I previously wrote, and I made sure that it all works out, and I'm now ready to distribute it to students. So you see that I wrote it using the NBGrader format, where I have write their function. Here you see that it shows the solution, although you'll see on the Vocarium interface when we finally compile it in quotation marks, we will create a new version for the student that will not show the solution. And these are the functions that are used to check the student's function. There are some that the student can see, the ones right here, but then we also have hidden functions down here that check the student's code on the server side, and the student never actually gets to see the function. Alright, so let's download this notebook. If you are using GitHub, you probably have a Git repository, and then you just type the command in the terminal, git pull. For me, I already did that. I do all my work not actually on my computer, but on a virtual server, and I set up different servers for different projects. So I updated my GitHub repository on my server, and now I'm going to download the notebook. So I guess this may not relate to you, but regardless, get the notebook on your computer one way or the other, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm downloading the notebook onto my computer. So now I just do download, and you see right here it just downloaded on my computer. I should probably now put the notebook in a drive, in a folder on my computer that's not crammed with everything downloads. So I'm going to just copy and paste this thing over to a little folder on my computer called Test It. I don't know, that's just where I put most of my temporary stuff. Rename it. Okay, so now I have it on my computer, and I want to upload my homework that is complete to the Vocarium interface. So let's now go to Vocarium so we can upload this notebook. Oh, and by the way, you might be wondering, oh, did he actually download the right notebook? Is there an error in the notebook? We can actually check the notebook on the Vocarium interface, and that's the reason why I'm not opening Jupyter right now to take a look at this thing. So now we go to Vocarium. Obviously, for this to work, you need to have a Vocarium account and be able to log in, which I do. So it just, I logged in before. It knows who I am, so it lets me get to my class. So now I go to assignments, and I do create a new assignment. And then I have to give it a title. And my course is CSE 103B. And I think this is homework 4. Let's say, yeah, this is homework 4. Homework 4. That's a good title. And, if you're part of the UCSD MicroMasters and this is a different class, the convention is give it the name of the course, either give it a descriptor. In my case, I just called it which homework it was. You could do something else, like these ones you see as sets homework is what that one was. So let's create this. All right, so now we just created a new assignment. We need to fill in the settings for this assignment. So first, we add a part. A part is basically like a subsection. So if you had like multiple different notebooks, then you could have multiple parts, which each have different grading schemes. In this case, we only have one part because there's only one notebook, and I try to just keep it like that. I try to keep it as simple as possible so I don't make mistakes. All right, so let's add a part. We give the part a name. I'm just going to give the part the exact same name as the other thing. Just makes life easier. We need to have a submission deadline. Now, this is something that will be confusing later, so make sure you take a look at this now. This is Pacific Standard Time. That's PST. I don't know what PDT is. Maybe it's like Daylight Savings Time, so I guess it keeps it constant so that it pretends like Daylight Savings doesn't exist, is my guess. But either way, I don't have to worry about Daylight Savings Times right now for the course, so I will just assume that's correct. The edX interface actually uses UTC time. So when you're setting these times for when the homework is due, make sure you're aware of which time zone you're setting the times in. You'll see the edX interface and see what I mean later. It does get confusing though, so watch out for that. So when do I want this thing due? Let me check my calendar and actually see when I want this thing due. I want it due on the 25th for me. Every Wednesday. So I do this to October 25th, right there. And at midnight, works for me. All right, that's the submission deadline. And then these are like other settings you can set. Number of submissions, you should really change that from 1. Students will freak out if you only allow them to submit something once. I think 15 is more than acceptable. I told them I would do 10. I'll do 13, just, give them a few extra ones. So, if there's that kid who did 10, but just realized there was an error, now he doesn't have to email us a million times. You can also make it so that you force them to wait a little time in between submissions, so they don't abuse the fact that they submit things many, many times. But I feel like, it's fine as is. You can mess around with that if you like. Okay, here's grading scheme. Now we get into stuff that is a little more complicated because it actually relates to the notebook that we create. So late penalty rule. Oh yeah, and I guess I have to go over a few other of these just like general setting stuff. We're not doing any of this late penalty stuff. We're just making it so they have 0. Grading rule, latest submission just makes things easier. So now let's get into actually creating the grading rubric and what that means. So basically, if we look back at our notebook, we see that we have right here 1 problem, 2 problem, and 3 problems. We tell them to write 3 different functions that do something. So for us, we're going to be grading 3 different problems. And I'm going to make each problem equally weighted. Even though some of these are harder than other ones, I figure, if they actually do it and they get some of it, they should get majority points. And the third one is more difficult, but I'll give it the same grade. But for the 3 problems, I have to decide the points for them. And I decide that here. So I create 3 boxes, and this is like the rubric for those 3 problems. Each one I will give 5 points total, so they're all equally graded. You have to click the auto grade button, which is what tells the server to automatically grade these and use the feature that we want, which is auto grading. And we have to give these things name. How about exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3? Works for me. Now let's go to Workspace. Now for our course, this is just info of what the professor wanted or didn't want students to see. We have a more simple layout than this. We do a standard interface, And then initially we only show them the console. And then output bottom panel. If you're kind of confused about these things too, just set them to how I did if you're using the UCSD MicroMasters. If you're using something else, read up, well, basically look at the interface that students use, and then from looking at the interface, you'll see what these things mean and how they work. We're not using either of these for our notebook. This is also not something we need to change at all. Servers, this is also, we do not need to change. We're just using this pre-specified server setup. It has everything that we need. So we save. All right, so we've done most of the settings. There's a few more settings left under options. All right, so we have a LTI link right here. We want this on. Basically, this is the link that connects the edX website to the Vocarium problem. And so this link is specific to this problem. So, you know, like these other problems right here, they will have like a different number here representing a different link. And when we set up the edX interface, this is how we specify, oh, hey, this cell should represent this problem. So, team assignment, no. Peer review, we're not going to do that. Publish the grades. Now that is depends on your class. For our class, we're not publishing the grades. We don't want the students to see total information of how they got something wrong. So for us, we're not doing that. For your class, you might do it. Copy starter code off. Auto grade on submit. That is something you want on. Now, even if you don't want them to see the grade, which is the publish grades button, you still want to auto grade it. You still want it to actually be graded. Leaderboard, no. Exam mode, IP range. We don't need to change any of that. And we also don't need to worry about the grace period. All right, so now my face is hiding another one of the important buttons. We have the configure workspace. So this is where we get into the settings that are specific to our problem. So we can click that. That's probably my girlfriend texting me. Oh, sister. All right, so let's go to the work. I can move myself right back down here. So if we go to work, we see there's nothing in there. But this is where we are going to put our homework notebook. So we can choose the upload button, and then we find the notebook on our computer. I put it in desktop, test it, compositions, homework, IPYNB, and I open it. And it's going to upload it. Get a little message saying that it was successful. I can close the window. Composition homework, this looks like gibberish. But if we click right up here on the Jupyter thing, we now see the notebook through a Jupyter interface on Vocarium. So this is the notebook that I just uploaded. And it's not just like I can view it on Jupyter. I can edit this notebook here, and those edits are saved on the Vocarium interface. So let's look at the notebook and see what we can do with it. So we see the notebook, and then we also see all these little extra cells here on the right. Now what those extra cells do is they allow us to give NBGrader settings for each cell. So for instance, for our thing, you know, if we read the top, we say, important, when submitting this homework notebook, only modify the cells that start with modify this cell. So all the cells that don't say that, we don't want the student to change, so we should make those cells read-only. So now I'm going to go through and just change like almost everything to read-only. Let's see if I look, I'm more out of the way if I'm up there. Okay, so we're changing everything to read-only now. Read-only, 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 By the way, on the traditional edX interface, this would make it so students can't, I'm sorry, on the traditional NB grader thing, this would make it so the students couldn't even change the cells. With Vocarium, they can still change the cells. So I don't really know if the read-only button actually does what it's supposed to do, but I would just put it there anyways. Modify this cell. So this is an actual point where the student is supposed to change the cell, so we do not make that read-only. We just leave it as is, so that the student can edit this. Now right down here, this is a cell that checks. So I mean, this is basically one of the grading points, right? Like if this cell runs without an error, then the student gets some points. So this isn't read-only, this is auto-grader test, which means that this is one of the things that we're checking for, and we're gonna check to see if the student gets points or not. And in our case, this is exercise 1, and it's worth 5 points if they get it correct. Now we go through again, read only. This one, again, because it's one that the student is working in, we don't change it or make it read only. And then down here, this is one of the check functions, check cells. So then we give this points, another read only, another one where the student writes the function, and test, and then a read-only. All right, so now we have finished making the changes that we want to this notebook. So now we can save this notebook. Hopefully that's saved. Yep, last checkpoint a few seconds ago. And we can go back to the Vocarium view on standard. So now we've made the version of the notebook that we're going to be using to like test stuff. And now we have to copy this over to where the students can download it off of the Vocarium interface. So what we do is we click on it, we click copy up here, starter code, which is, as you can imagine, is the code that the student starts with, and we paste. And we paste. Are you sure you want? Oh, I guess I already went in there. I was just wanted to hit it too early. Okay, so now we have it here. And so let's say you're also calling images. Like let's say there's a few images that you use in your Jupyter notebook. You know how I uploaded this compositions right here. If this also calls images, make sure you also like upload the image files to Vocarium as well, so that it can call those images. And then you also have to copy those over to the starter code. All right, so now we are close to being done setting this up. We just have to tell the Vocarium interface what to do at different points within the process of grading, which is what the scripts things do right here. So on submission, we don't automatically grade it and give students full information back. Instead, we do something called check, which only gives them a little bit of information back, not full information. All right, so that is voc check with a capital C notebook, and then the name of the notebook. In our case is compositions_homework.ipynb. Voc check notebook compositions_homework. Looks good. Now you have to wait for the little saving thing here to tell you that it's finished saving. There is no save button at this point. It does like this auto saving thing. So now we have to do what should it do at the grading step. So we go to grading. Also, I just want to check this one more time. I'm always paranoid that I'm going to spell a little letter wrong and then everything is going to not work. Okay, that looks good. So we go to grading. Give it a few seconds to load. Don't just start typing. All right, so now we have to tell what should it do at the grading step. And in our case, what we wanted to do at the grading step is to grade the notebook. So we do voc grade with a capital G, notebook, capital N, compositions_homework.ipynb. Voc grade notebook compositions. Okay, that looks good. So now we see the saving thing here. Wait for that to finish. Saved. Okay, so now everything is set up just right. So we click the update button. Are you sure you want to update? Yes. And at this point, we are basically done with the Vocarium interface. All we have to do is set up the edX interface. But remember how I was talking about a link earlier that we need to use that basically tells it, the edX interface, where to look for the problem on the Vocarium interface? Now is the time where we're going to use that. So we have to get back to the assignment settings view so we can copy that link. So now we're in the correct spot, homework 4, and we have the LTI link. So we're going to copy that. So here's a little post-production edit. I realized I forgot something super important, and that was to hit the publish button, which makes it so that all the changes that we actually have done are published, and so that now students can actually use the Vocarium interface. So I'm going to click this button, and now we are finished with the Vocarium interface. All right, so now let's go back to what we were doing. We're going to copy this link, and we are going to now set up the edX interface so that it works with the Vocarium interface. So we go to edX Studio and we sign in. And the edX interface always takes forever to sign in for some reason. Not usually this long though. By the way, if this video is slow, feel free to watch it at 1.5 speed. I mean, that's basically where I watch everything on YouTube these days, is 1.5 speed. Even music videos. All right, so now which course are we doing? Well, we're not doing any of these courses because I should have signed into Studio edX Edge for our course. So now we are going to have to wait another long while for the Studio interface to load. Edge is if it's a smaller local class. edX.org is the class that 20,000 people will sign up for or something. All right, so statistics, probability, and data science using Python, that's our course. So right now you see all the cells that we have created for this course. We want to create our programming assignment for week 4. So here we are at week 4, programming. I'm surprised I didn't know I already created a cell. I thought I was going to show you guys how to do that. Huh. And okay, well, regardless. So now we are here for week 4. And we already have things here. Download code. I don't know what would actually be in these cells since I haven't created these. All right. Well, let's just show how you would create this if it didn't already exist. So let's do a new subsection. I'm going to call it programming assignment. I'm probably going to go and delete that other one. And now we can just click enter so this thing has a name. All right, so now we go to settings right here, and we have to decide when this thing should be released. And for us, you can have the release date to be whatever you want, as long as the students can't see it. It's a little trick that we do, a little hack, so that basically I create this notebook, and then I have the TAs for the course check it, see if they can find any errors in the homework that I create for the course, and then they change it as necessary. So I just make the release date whatever it is right now, which is what they set it for. And then under visibility, I just make it so the students can't see the notebook. But that now the TAs who have access to this Studio interface are allowed to go in and make edits as necessary. So now back to settings. I say that it's a programming assignment, and I make the due date. Let's see. I guess it would be on the 25th. Now here is where things get interesting. This is what I was talking about before, where we're using UTC instead of Pacific Standard Time. UTC is the time in Greenwich, England. So that would be 7 hours ahead. So for this time, we set it to not the 25th, because it's due the 25th at 11:59 p.m. So now we're going to be doing it on the 26th, because they're like 7 hours ahead. And for them, it will be at 6:59 p.m. I feel like they don't actually allow me to do 6:59, so I do 7. All right. So that's 7 a.m. in the morning. And if you're wondering why there's no a.m. p.m.s, they use military time. At least that's what we call it in the States. It might have a different name somewhere else, where it just goes up to 24. All right, so we save this. We set up to a programming assignment, releasing right now, invisible to students. Good. Let's release this programming assignment. Now we add a new unit to the assignment. I mean, what do we call it? Well, I mean, it's still just a programming assignment. All right, I'm going to just check the settings. I don't think there's any settings that I need to change here. Nope, no settings I need to change. So basically, we have to do two things. We have to create the interface, and then we have to create a spot where the students can download the code. So let's first create the interface, because that's kind of the hard part of the tutorial. So we click Advanced for what type of cell we want to add. We click LTI Consumer. And so basically this is a spot where you can use to connect edX to any outside grading company. And you can choose multiple different companies. So under the Edit, in here, this is where we specify exactly how the interface knows to use the Vocarium site that we created. So under LTI ID, this is where we specify the ID of basically the project that we're working with, project being the project Vocarium made for our course. There's a spot where you create that in the settings. I'm creating this tutorial for people who I've already done that setup for, and so they don't need to know how to do it. So we're going to just copy and paste the one that I already created in. For guys who don't have this, check out the settings, advanced settings. You can set it up there. All right, so we do UCSD. This is just the name that I gave this. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't do this. Someone else set it up. But, so this is the name if you're using the UCSD Vocarium interface. We do the LTI URL. So that was that URL from before here that we copy over and we paste it in. So what other things can we change for this cell? We can change the height, because basically we want this interface to be as simple as possible. We make the height a little smaller, and then we already worked with Vocarium to make there less buttons and stuff. So that size is fine. Should this thing be scored? Yes, we definitely want this thing scored, because this will determine the grade of the student. We make the weight 100. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know why we make the weight 100, but every problem has a weight of 100. Hide external tool, accept grade past deadline. Yeah, this is fine. Now you might say, oh, but they can submit homeworks past the deadline. That's not good. But the problem is they can't, because well, the good thing is they can't, because on the actual Vocarium site, we make it so they can't submit things past the deadline. So this stuff is fine just as is. So we can save. All right, so now we have the interface, and you're looking at this thing, and you might realize, oh, hey, this looks exactly like the thing that I created earlier for myself to create the assignment. This doesn't look like the student's interface, and yes, that's true. So you might then say, oh, well, I can just view the student interface by doing the preview button and then going to learner, but it's not going to show up because we said this thing was hidden to students. So again, they still don't see it. So you might be wondering, like, how can I test this thing or see what this looks like from the student's perspective? Well, there's a way to do that. We go to Configure Workspace, and then we go to Student View, which will show us what this thing looks like from the perspective of the student. Now we see a student's perspective of the notebook, and notice how simple this interface is. Now we are going to now get the version of the homework that the student should download. And the thing is, the student could actually go here and click Download Starter Code, but we want to make things as simple as possible for students. We don't want them to use any of this interface other than the red upload button. So we're going to just download the homework ourselves, and then we're going to upload it onto the edX interface and create a little link right above this thing. Well, actually, let's just do it right now so you can see what I mean. So we're going to create a little text box, drag the text box above this thing. Oh, I have to move my mugshot over a little to do this. So drag the text box above this thing to up there. There we go. We edit it. We have to give it a name, right? Oh no, we don't do settings. We go to edit. Here's where we change the name. So let's just say download homework here. All right, that looks good. And under settings, we can change this to display name. How about download homework? This seems like a clear name. And now we're going to create a hyperlink to the homework so that they click this instead of having to worry about all this stuff. So now we have to have the notebook uploaded for the students to work on. Now, if you remember, this version of the notebook had the solutions in it and also had the hidden tests. So if we just upload the thing from the GitHub right to the edX website, then the students would have complete information about the homework, which is clearly not good. But when we did all that stuff of creating the notebook on Vocarium, when we copied it over to starter code, it actually didn't copy the exact notebook. It created like a compiled version of the notebook that had the student view of what we want them to see. So when we clicked download the starter code earlier, if we look at that starter code, we'll see it's actually different than the notebook we first created. So let me go to a spot where I can starter code. All right, so let's paste that, open it, and go inside starter code. There we see the notebook. Now to actually see what it looks like, we will have to open Jupyter Notebook to take a look at this thing. It'll only take a few seconds. All right, cd desktop, cd, what did I call that file? Test it. All right, this is a good enough spot to start Jupyter Notebook. All right, there we have Jupyter Notebook. Go into starter code, click this thing, and you'll see what I mean about this being different. And ta-da, you see here under compositions where it used to show the answer, it now says your code here. And also notice the check functions doesn't have that thing where it says hidden tests. The hidden tests actually are hidden. So the notebook for the student is exactly what we want it to look like. For comparison, this is the GitHub one, which has the solution and has the hidden tests. So now we want to upload this thing to Vocarium. I'm sorry, not to Vocarium, to edX. It's already on Vocarium. So back to the edX interface. Now we go to Content, Files and Uploads. And here we can do Upload New File. So we upload a new file. We choose the file on our computer. This is the file we want to upload. we click open. And then this has the link to the file on edX, so we can copy that link. And then we can exit out of here. So we can now go back to our outline and go back to our programming assignment. Oh, and since we already created this one, I'm going to delete this previous guy. I actually don't know what was on this anyways. It might have actually had everything I just did, but I doubt it because I don't remember doing all this stuff. So I'll just leave it for now. Better safe than sorry. I'll do that after the video. All right, so but this was the one we were working in, programming assignment. And so now under this we do edit, and we can add a hyperlink to what we just uploaded. So we do insert link, we paste it in, and we see here now download homework is a link. And if we click it, we see the homework just downloaded right there. And it has the name. I'm not going to open it. It has the same name. I assume it's the right thing. For you guys, I would be extra safe and check to make sure that's exactly what you want it to be. And that's it. I think we just have finished uploading our first homework to edX and also to Vocarium. At this point, what you would do is you would have the TAs test the code and get back to you to make sure it works right. Now remember, to have them test it, they have to go to Configure Workspace, and they have to then click the Student View button. And then they can give you their input of what they thought about the homework. I'm not going to do that right now. You already saw it. And then when you want to finally release this for students to work on it, all you do is we come down here. Remember, we already published the homework in the sense that, at this point, students could go to the interface and submit the homework, but the thing is they can't see it. So we published it, but we made it invisible. So when you want, like the day that you want students to start working on it, what you do is you would go to Settings, and you would go to Visibility, and you would change it from Hide Entire Subsection to Show Entire Subsection, and then the students can start working on it. And the only thing left to do is to publish right here. So you could either click this Publish button. Probably the one that you're more used to seeing is the Publish button right here. So you just click this, and now it's published. And that's it. We uploaded the homework to edX. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this explains some stuff. If you're having questions or you think I left something out, or what is highly likely that I said something wrong at some point, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.